I know how I'll be betting the Breeders' Cup races, and I know how you should be betting the Breeders' Cup races. You should be betting through NYRA Bets, a $200 match bonus, plus a $25 risk-free Breeders' Cup bet on the Juvenile or the Classic. Promo code is BC19. Sign up now. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, the dirt race. One of the original Breeders' Cup races is the third race of the 14-race Breeders' Cup series, and it's not an easy race. There is no standout here. There are quite a few players in here, all of them listed at similar prices. You see 3 7-2 shots and a 3 to 1 shot that all come into this race with credentials that can win it. We'll start out with the California horses, the 1, 2, 3 finishers in the Chandeleur, including the Bob Baffert-trained Bast and the Doug O'Neill-trained Comical, who we saw in Saratoga actually on opening day win our Schuylerville. How can you not root for a horse that won on opening day at Saratoga? And she actually ran pretty well in the Chandeleur. Bast had run extremely well to win the Del Mar Debutante and is a dual Grade 1 winner 2 races back. She was 1 to 5 in this race, and I'm going to say this is not winning like a 1 to 5 shot should. Not knocking Bast, but this was not a spectacular performance. Her race 2 back can win this, but that was a 1-turn race. She did not run well at 2 turns, and it feels like the pace should be at least reasonably contentious, which doesn't work in her favor. I won't be surprised when Bast does well. I'm never surprised when Bob Baffert wins a Breeders' Cup race, whether it's in California, Churchill Downs, or anywhere else. But I'm not thrilled with Bast's last race, and I don't really know that Comical going long should be considered a major player in this race. Wicked Whisper. I'm not going to be surprised when Wicked Whisper ends up the favorite, because perhaps her win in our Frizette was the most visually impressive. And last year's Frizette winner, Jaywalk, upset the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Wicked Whisper, though, has a different scenario. While Wicked Whisper didn't set a particularly slow pace, they weren't blazing up front. And there's a horse coming off a maiden win we're going to talk about a bit later that is the morning line favorite. Now, whether she ends up the favorite remains to be seen, but she's going to have to deal with that one in the front end. And I think that Wicked Whisper is going to find herself in a far more contentious pace scenario than she has in either of her 2 races. And to me, as a horse will be a short price, she's the one that I'm most trying to beat. I am not trying to beat British Idiom. I thought British Idiom's win last time in the Alcibiades was extremely good, and she's supposed to get pace in this race, and unlike the others, I'm confident that going long she can rate and finish. And this was a big step forward for trainer Brad Cox off of her maiden breaking win at Saratoga, which really wasn't that spectacular. It was okay. She left in her wake a horse named Perfect Alibi, who we're going to talk about in just a moment. And I like British Idiom's effort, and overall, I think she may be the one to beat of the big players. But let's talk a little Perfect Alibi, because Perfect Alibi is another Grade 1 winner in a field that is full of Grade 1 wins, as this is her win in the Spinaway. And it was her 2nd straight win. She won the Adirondack as well. She actually ran well and probably should have been 4 for 4 because she should have won the Astoria at Belmont. She should have been undefeated going into the race at Keeneland. The problem is that even this race, and this was a gutsy, valiant win coming through on the inside and beating a talented runner in Frank's Roquette, but she wasn't getting particularly big figs. And you know what happens to horses that are slow in their figs? They meet faster horses and they don't win, and that's exactly what happened at 2 to 1 in the Alcibiades. She got blown off the racetrack by British Idiom, and the question is, why should I expect her to do better in this race? Let's take a look at some other players in this race, and they may be more fringe players, but they're not without their merits, as we head down to Gulfstream Park to see 260, who is the other entrant for Mark Casse, who also trains Perfect Alibi. 260 was a dominant winner of the My Dear, I believe this is the My Dear Girl. It's tough to keep these Florida Stallion Series races together, and they are Florida-bred races. She got an 80 buyer, and she was impressive, but she was forward in here, and it's going to be tough to be forward in this race. And it feels like every year a horse comes from Florida in some of the Breeders' Cup juvenile races with seemingly good credentials on paper, and those horses over time have not done that well. How about Lazy Daisy, who we have not seen now in going on 2 months since she scored an upset win in the Pocahontas at Churchill Downs? She improved immeasurably for Doug O'Neill, and she did it stretching out for the first time. The 2nd place finisher was a substantial long shot for trainer Tom Amoss. I think was 43 to 1. Now, I didn't think it was an impressive field. I don't know where these horses got their races, but Lazy Daisy did run a Beyer speed figure of 77 that while it's not good enough to win, it puts her within, I would say, distance close enough to be a player here, and maybe she improves a little bit and gets it done. I don't like her in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, but I could understand why some think she could step forward off of her last race. Now, let's talk about the Maiden Breaker and the horse, who is the morning line favorite, and that's Donna Veloce. The success of horses coming off impressive maiden wins at relatively short prices in Breeders' Cup races is not very strong. She got a 91 buyer. It's the fastest buyer figure in the field, and it was a legitimately fast race. She was 3-5 and an $800,000 two-year-old purchase in March at Fasig-Tipton. So it's not as though she doesn't have the credentials to be a very good horse. But now she has to stretch out 2 furlongs. She ran in a track last time that was very kind to inside speed runners, and she's going to have to deal with talented speed, at least by Wicked Whisper. At a short price, I couldn't take Donna Veloce, but she scares me because she is talented. My picks in this race, I hinted at it before. I took the 4 British Idiom in a very contentious Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. I put her over Basque and Donna Veloce, and Wicked Whisper, I'm going to try to beat her in this race. I'm going to key, though, on British Idiom in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. And where am I going to key on them? Oh, you know. I'm going to key on them at NYRA Bets. Head on over to NYRABets.com. If you're not a member, there's that match bonus of up to $200, $25 risk-free bet on the Breeders' Cup Juvenile or the Breeders' Cup Classic. Playing them all through NYRA Bets. The Breeders' Cup previews continue.